The Senate is going nuts. Okay. Here to bring everything up to speed, Joe Biden's agenda is falling apart, but Democrats are desperate to try to make it happen, particularly in the voting rights area. So that's why Joe Biden was in Atlanta this week, fierily talking about how his legislation needs to be passed. The problem is we got a 50-50 Senate. Republicans are absolutely not going to pass it. But Chuck Schumer is saying we absolutely have to pass it because it's the only right thing to do is, this voting rights legislation that is supposed to, eliminate gerrymandering and all these horrible things that are wrong with our voting system. But everyone knows that it won't pass. And so then Chuck Schumer instead is saying, let's force a vote on the filibuster rules, where you have to have a 60-person line for the vote to pass. And so he basically wants to change the rules in order to push through legislation. The problem is you have to have every single Democrat on board with changing those filibuster rules. Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema from here in Arizona are against it. It's a lose-lose situation, and yet Chuck Schumer just last night, he said he is still going to force through the vote on Tuesday.
He really just seems dead set on it.
He's dead set on it, even though everyone knows it's dead in the water.
Yeah.
Even voting rights activists over the weekend were talking about how it's just dead in the water and Joe Biden's wasting his time campaigning for this in Atlanta because it's not going to happen. And yet Chuck Schumer is just seems to be a little bit on his own planet. Right. I don't know. I want to hear from you guys why you think that the Democrats that Chuck Schumer is so desperate to push this through when it doesn't seem like there's any chance.
Well, I think Democrats are just used to ramming through legislation. That's our one criticism in the office is that we always say, whenever Republicans get power, we all breathe this sigh of relief. And then they leave and we're like, oh, what'd they do? Yeah, what'd they do?
Right.
So, credit to them. They have formed the habit of getting stuff done, even if it's not really actually doing anything. It would be nice to see Republicans in office actually taking initiative, whether or not it's a valid one or not. But yeah, I think that they're just dead set. And I think it's going to be another thing where they can point to. I think it's actually strategic because if I were them, I would look into 22 if I'm a liberal and say, oh, this is not going to go well. What's something we can do? Oh my gosh, we don't have Trump as a scapegoat anymore. Let's blame Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. We can point to them and be like, oh, look, we tried to solve voting issues. We tried to solve everything. But look, those two, they stopped everything. We'll have to try again. Vote. That's what I think that they're going to do because they don't have anything else at this point. I saw on Twitter today that even, I think it was CNN or MSNBC said Biden's terrible week. That was their headline on the news. And so everyone unanimously agrees for the first time in forever that things just aren't looking good for the admin. And I think that lesser Democrats are starting to panic.
Yeah.
It's a little surprising, I think, that Chuck Schumer is so adamant that he's going to force this vote because, I think you're right, Tara. I think what they're doing is kind of setting up scapegoats, but those two scapegoats are members of his party.
Exactly.
They're both Democrats. It's not going to be an opportunity to run. We could have had this voting rights legislation, but no. Senator Tom Cotton, held it up. It's not Cotton. It's two Democrats. So I often ask on this show the question of dumb or dishonest when we're talking about leftists in particular. Is somebody being dumb or dishonest? Chuck Schumer has many faults, but he is not dumb.
No.
He is not a stupid man. You don't get to be in the position he's in by being stupid, which only leaves me with one option. But I don't understand what the point of his dishonesty here. It's one of these weird situations where I'm like, I'm pretty sure he's lying somewhere about something, and I can't tell you why.
Yeah, really, I think that Chuck Schumer, it's kind of a thuggish move that he's...
that's what it feels like.
Yeah, and I think particularly everything revolving around Joe Manchin has just been, Chuck Schumer and the Democratic senators just being the mafia thugs.
Right.
Of just if you ain't voting with us, we're going to ruin you.
Right.
I think it's just, the increasing thuggishness of our Congress.
And what the heck is Biden doing going to Georgia?
Oh, yeah.
Why don't you go to West Virginia
is so
or
funny.
Arizona and try to put pressure on the two senators?
He was hunting down the governor of Georgia,
Yeah,
Stacey Abrams.
yeah,
So,
yeah, right,
yeah, they were
exactly.
looking for
She still
her.
hasn't
She wasn't in
conceded.
office.
Well, and she did not show up at his event either.
Oh, she very publicly snubbed him.
Yeah,
but you
there were a
can't blame
lot
her.
of prominent,
Yeah.
particularly black Democrats in Georgia who did not show up to support Joe Biden at
The
that
Black
speech.
Lives Matter co-founder publicly condemned him and said he should not be in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I am not going to the events.